never thought I'd become that guy. You know, the one sitting alone in a dark car at midnight, heart pounding, hands trembling, staring at a house that used to be filled with love, now holding only secrets. I never thought I'd be the one, hiding a voice recorder in my wife's glove compartment, praying it would either reveal the truth or set me free from the lies I could no longer ignore. But here I am. This story isn't about catching someone in the act just for revenge. It's about how a perfect love can rot silently from within, how the person you swore your life to can slowly become a stranger in the most familiar place, your home, and how one moment, one whisper, one half-second of doubt can unravel everything. If you're expecting this to be a calm and rational tale, you're in for something else, because nothing about this was calm. Nothing about betrayal is ever rational. My name is Ethan. I'm 36 years old, and this is the story of how I found out the woman I built my life with was never really mine. It all started in a food court at Navy Pier, Chicago, 2015. I wasn't looking for love. I was hungry and annoyed that the line at the gyro stand was too long. So, I wandered toward a smoothie counter, and there she was. Camilla. She was laughing with someone behind the counter, sipping on a lemonade like she wasn't the most magnetic presence in the entire building. The kind of beauty that doesn't try. The kind that walks in and silences a room. She caught me staring, and instead of turning away, she smiled. "I'm not in line," she said, tilting her head. "I'm just waiting on my cousin." That was it. That one moment? It was like someone hit the gas pedal on my entire life. We talked. I offered her a drink. She took a strawberry lemonade. I made her laugh. She made me nervous, in a good way. When her cousin finally came out, I asked for her number. She gave it with a wink. A year later, we were living together. 2 years after that, married. We had 3 kids, 2 daughters and 1 boy. Life got hectic, but in the best way. Late-night feedings, school drop-offs, birthday parties, and cleaning spaghetti. Sauce off the walls, you know. Family life. Real life. Camilla wasn't just my wife. She was my peace. She had this fire about her. Cuban-American, wild curls tied in a ponytail, full of passion, ambition, and energy. She had tattoos running down her arms, a love for salsa music, and a social media presence that could have made her a minor celebrity. She posted like an influencer, even though she wasn't one. The likes, the comments, the followers, they flooded in like worship. And I understood. She was stunning. She worked in interior design, technically under her sister's growing company, but Camilla had the gift. Our home looked like it belonged in a magazine. And me? I worked as a maintenance engineer for a local corporate building. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. And I liked it. For years, everything felt good. Not fairy tale perfect, but real. We'd sacrificed our party nights for movie nights, our clubbing for cooking, our me for we. But then, cracks. They didn't come all at once. That's the scariest part. They came quietly, like fog rolling in on a sunny day. The first time I noticed something was off, I ignored it. That's what love does. It teaches you to give the benefit of the doubt, even when your instincts scream otherwise. One Friday afternoon, my car broke down. I had no choice but to call Camilla to come pick me up. She arrived early, and by the time I got outside, she was laughing in the parking lot with 2 of my coworkers, Jamal and Tina. I introduced them, and we made small talk. Everything seemed normal. But after that day, Camilla started stopping by more often. At first it made sense. She was dropping off lunch, picking me up, or saying hi to Tina. But soon it was happening on days I didn't need a ride. Days I didn't even know she was coming. She'd show up, hang out in the office, listen to music with Jamal on his Bluetooth speaker, and laugh louder than she laughed at home. I told myself I was imagining things, I told myself she was just being social. I told myself I was lucky to have a wife who wanted to be around me, even if it was at my job. But when I started seeing her parked outside for 30 minutes after I'd clocked out, waiting in the car with Jamal and Tina, the doubt started whispering louder. One time, she wasn't even with Tina, just Jamal. I asked her later, casually, "Did you see Tina today?" And she replied, "Yeah, of course. We hung out in the office for a bit." She lied, and I knew it. Still, I said nothing. Because what kind of husband accuses his wife of lying over something so small? The kind whose gut has started screaming. More late nights came, more solo outings. "I'm going to dinner with Bree," she'd say. Or, "movie night with my girls." Her phone became glued to her. Her giggles during midnight calls didn't sound like conversations with girlfriends. One night, I passed by the back porch and heard her whisper, "Stop, you're bad. I can't tonight. He's home." I froze. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. But still, I said nothing. I didn't have proof. Just shadows. Then, out of nowhere, came Marcus. He was a guy I used to work with. Cool guy. We'd lost touch, but he randomly hit me up one evening. He asked if Camilla was still dropping by the job. I said yeah. He went quiet for a moment, and then said, "Man, I don't know how to tell you this, but I think Jamal's sleeping with your wife." The world spun. I remember standing outside my car, staring at the streetlight while Marcus kept talking. He said he'd seen Camilla twerking for Jamal in the back lounge during overtime one Saturday. That Jamal had bragged about her. That everyone knew he had a thing for her. That they'd get real close when no one was watching. I didn't believe him. I did believe him. I hung up and stood in my driveway, watching the house that held my wife, my children, my memories, and possibly a lie so deep I'd drown in it. I wanted to confront her right then. But I knew she'd deny it. She'd twist it. She'd say I was paranoid. So I made a decision. If Camilla was going to lie, I was going to record the truth. If you're still here and this story already has you hooked, I invite you to support this channel by hitting that subscribe button. It gives us the motivation to keep sharing raw, real, and powerful stories that matter. Trust me, this one's only getting started. Now, let me ask you something. Quick question. If your partner started lying about small details, like who they were with, would you, A, confront them immediately? B, wait and gather evidence first? Drop your answer A or B in the comments. I'll be reading everyone. And stay tuned for part 2, because the whispers behind closed doors, they're about to get louder. There's something terrifying about silence when it comes from someone you love. Not the peaceful kind. I'm talking about the kind that buzzes with secrets. The kind that follows laughter you're not part of. That silence had become a regular guest in my house. After Marcus told me about Jamal and Camilla, the world didn't look the same. Every room I stepped into felt colder. Every laugh she let out over the phone sounded rehearsed. Every time she stepped out to meet Bree, I stopped believing it. I didn't say anything. Not yet. But I was watching. She wasn't just growing distant. She was disappearing in pieces. First, her attention. Then her affection. Her time. Her tone. Her presence. The way she used to light up when I walked into a room. Gone. The warmth in her hug. Gone. She still looked like Camilla, but it felt like she was wearing herself as a disguise. I remember one night clearly, because it was the first time I truly knew she was lying. Our son had come into our room crying because he had a nightmare. I got up with him, sat on the edge of his bed, rubbed his back until he calmed down. When I came back, she wasn't in bed. I checked the bathroom. Empty. I peeked out back. She was standing on the patio, barefoot in the cold, whispering into her phone. I leaned closer to the door and caught fragments. "You're wild," she giggled. "I don't know, maybe. Depends if he's still here." That he was me. And she wasn't talking to her sister or Tina. No sister calls at 1 a.m, laughing about maybe sneaking out. She came in 15 minutes later and acted like nothing happened. Climbed into bed and pulled the covers up like I wasn't. Wide awake, laying in hell right next to her. The next morning, I stared at my reflection for a long time. Not because I was checking my face. I was trying to find him. The version of me that was okay with being lied to, used, humiliated. I couldn't find him because he was gone. And what was left in the mirror was someone slowly preparing for war. I needed more than suspicion. I needed the truth. In the days that followed, I started to track patterns. I paid attention to her schedule more than she did. She was always out with Brianna, but never once FaceTimed from those nights. She'd get home hours later, too, dressed up for just a girl's dinner, smelling like a mix of perfume and something I couldn't describe, but it wasn't me. Sometimes I'd ask innocent questions. "What restaurant did y'all go to?" She'd pause. "That new one on Belmont. Forgot the name. Really small." And I'd nod, pretending I didn't know that place had been closed for months. Tried bringing it up one night, gently, trying to keep the peace. I told her I missed her. Told her we were drifting. Her reaction? She laughed. Said I was being dramatic. That I was imagining things. That I was too sensitive lately, and that's when the emotional gaslighting started. Camilla had a gift. She could flip any concern into an accusation against me. If I said I felt ignored, she'd say I was needy. If I said I missed our intimacy, she'd say I was trying to guilt her. And when I told her I didn't trust the way she looked at Jamal, she said I was jealous because Jamal had more ambition. She called me paranoid. Accused me of trying to control her. And the worst part? For a moment, I believed her. That's the scary thing about being in love with someone who's lying to you. Their lies echo inside your head so much, you start to think they're yours. But the more I paid attention, the more things unraveled. Her phone was never left unattended. She'd carry it into the shower, into the laundry room, to the mailbox. One time, I asked to check the time on it, and she grabbed it back like it was a live grenade. That night, I saw her delete messages at 2 a.m. Then came the Thursday she slipped up. I'd taken the day off work. Told her I wasn't feeling well. Around noon, she got all dressed up. Jeans that fit like they were painted on, hair done up, lashes curled, and perfume that filled the house even after she left. "I'm just going to grab lunch with Bree," she said. "We're meeting at the Grove." After she left, I called Brianna. We weren't close, but we'd spoken a few times at events and family parties. I tried to keep my voice casual. "Hey, just checking in. Camilla said she was meeting you for lunch. Tell her to bring me something sweet if she remembers." There was a pause. Then Brianna said, "Oh, I haven't talked to her today. I thought she was working with her sister." I mumbled something, hung up, and stood in our kitchen staring at the fruit bowl like it held all the answers. The betrayal didn't hit like a punch. It hit like a slow knife turning. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed her to keep slipping. Because if this thing was real, it wasn't just going to be a lunch. It was going to be a pattern. And patterns could be recorded. That weekend, she said she was taking the kids to her mom's house in the suburbs. I offered to drive. She said no. It was too out of the way. Said I should relax, get some rest. "You've been so tense lately," she added, brushing her hand along my shoulder like she still knew how to touch me. After they left, I called her mom. "Hey, is Camilla there already?" Her mom sounded confused. She said they were coming tomorrow, not today. I didn't even reply, just hung up and sat down slowly. She had lied again. But the fact that she took the kids as cover, that's what made it feel unforgivable. It wasn't just cheating anymore. It was deception wrapped in family. It was using our children as a smokescreen for her affair. That night, she came home 3 hours later than she said, claimed traffic, said her mom kept her talking. But the GPS app I'd installed on her car told a different story. She'd spent 47 minutes parked on the south side near an apartment complex. Not her mom's house, not Brianna's, but suspiciously close to where Jamal had said he lived once in passing. I didn't eat that night. Couldn't. My stomach was tight, twisted. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. When she walked past me in the hallway and kissed my cheek like everything was normal, I wanted to scream, but I stayed quiet, because I knew what was coming next. The silence wasn't the scariest part anymore. It was what I was willing to become inside of it. A man who stops asking. A man who starts listening. A man who finally decides, this ends now. I began planning. The voice recorder I'd ordered online was arriving in 2 days. I borrowed a package locker from my friend Julian so she wouldn't see it. I watched YouTube tutorials on how to hide devices under car seats, in purses, behind vents. I wasn't just trying to catch a cheater anymore. I was preparing to expose a lie so loud it had silenced our entire marriage. But for now, I played the part. I smiled. I cooked. I kissed her goodbye as she left for her girls' night. I said I love you as she walked away, and I meant it. Not for the woman she was, but for the man I had to become to survive her. I had no idea what I was about to uncover, but I was ready to find out. And when I did, there would be no turning back. There's a moment in every story like this. A point of no return. Not the moment when trust breaks. Not the moment when a lie is told. But the moment when you choose to stop being the victim and start becoming the architect of your own truth. For me, that moment arrived the day the voice recorder landed in my hands. It wasn't much to look at. Just a slim black rectangle, no bigger than a stick of gum. But holding it felt heavier than any weight I'd carried. This wasn't just a piece of technology. It was a key. One that might open the door to the final truth, or slam it shut with regret. I didn't sleep the night before it arrived. My thoughts were racing with every conversation, every excuse Camilla had given me over the last few months. The smiles she'd offered like shields, the eye rolls when I asked basic questions, the laughter at things I wasn't a part of. All of it was coming to a head now. I had chosen not to confront her. Not because I was afraid, but because I needed her to keep lying. I needed the mask to stay on just a little longer. Because once it came off, everything we'd built would collapse, and I wanted to make sure that when it did, I'd be the one holding the truth, not the confusion. I told her I had to work overtime that week. I didn't. I took the time to set the stage. I placed the recorder carefully under the passenger seat of her car, tucked inside a Velcro pouch. It was voice-activated. As soon as someone spoke, it would start recording. No buttons, no blinking lights. Just silence. And then, when it caught something, proof. The first 2 days were uneventful. Normal traffic noise, a few phone calls. She was on the phone with her mom, her sister, laughing about a new nail salon they'd found. I almost doubted myself. Almost. But on the 3rd day, everything changed. That evening, she came home late again. Said she'd lost track of time shopping with Tina. Her hair was tousled in a way that didn't look like she'd been in a mall. Her perfume was stronger than usual, and she was wearing a hoodie I hadn't seen before. I didn't say a word. Just smiled, kissed her cheek, and asked how the sales were. She made something up about candles. When she fell asleep that night, I retrieved the recorder. My hands shook as I plugged it into my laptop. The file was there, 3 hours of audio. I sat in the dark, listening. At first, it was nothing. The radio, a phone call to Tina, this time real. Then, halfway through the second hour, I heard her voice shift. It was softer. Lower. The kind of tone she used with me years ago, before kids, before complications. Then I heard a male voice. Jamal. I froze. At first, it was just small talk. Laughing. About an inside joke. Then he said something that made my stomach twist. I missed last time. Camilla giggled. You're bad. You said you wanted it rough. Don't act like you didn't, he teased. There was a pause. I didn't say I didn't like it, she whispered. I hit pause. I didn't know what to do with myself. I stared at the screen like it would offer clarity. It didn't. It just stared back, cold and quiet, holding the kind of truth that makes your blood feel foreign in your veins. I forced myself to keep listening. They talked about a party, how Brianna covered for them. They laughed about how clueless I was. Jamal even said, he probably thinks you're still picking up throw pillows for your clients. Then Camilla said something I'll never forget. He's too safe. Predictable. You're chaos. She didn't mean it cruelly. She said it with longing, and that hurt more than anything. It wasn't just betrayal. It was desire. She wanted this. Wanted him. It wasn't some moment of weakness. It was a choice. Over and over again. The next day, I didn't speak to her. Not because I was angry, though I was, but because I was trying to understand the kind of person who could lie to my face so convincingly. I watched her make lunch for the kids, fix her hair in the mirror, dance around the kitchen like a happy wife. And all I could think was, how long had I been living in someone else's fantasy? I needed more, not for the court, for myself. So I placed the recorder in her purse. This time I got 2 hours of audio. I listened to her inside a restaurant, laughing with someone. I heard silverware clinking, drinks being poured. But it wasn't a group setting. It was one-on-one. And Jamal was there again. They talked about the next weekend. About his apartment. About the playlist he made for her. She said she loved when he played that Spanish track during. She didn't say during what, but she didn't need to. I took the recorder out the next morning and put it in the drawer. I was done listening. The truth wasn't just whispered in shadows anymore. It was shouting. My marriage wasn't dying quietly. It had already died, and I was just now being invited to the funeral. But the final blow didn't come from the recordings. It came from her eyes. One evening, she got dressed in silence. Tight black dress. Heels. She hadn't worn in years. Makeup that shimmered. She looked incredible. And she didn't even glance at me. Where are you headed? I asked casually. Dinner with Bree. It's her birthday, she replied without emotion. You didn't mention it earlier. I forgot, she said, grabbing her clutch. I stood in the hallway, watching her check herself in the mirror. You look amazing, I said softly. She didn't smile, just nodded. Thanks. And then she left. I followed. I didn't tail her. Like in the movies, no dramatic music, just me and my truck, a few cars back, keeping my distance. She drove across town, past the restaurant she claimed she was going to, and into a residential neighborhood. She pulled into a gated complex, Jamal's. I didn't go in. I didn't need to. I drove home. I knew now, and she didn't know I had everything. The recordings, the GPS data, the lies, the timeline, the complete unedited version of her double life. The next day, I made backups of everything. I uploaded the files to cloud storage. I saved copies on flash drives. and handed one to my brother Julian. "Just in case," I told him. He didn't ask questions. He just nodded. The mask was about to come off. She didn't know it yet. But I was no longer collecting evidence. I was preparing for the end. And this time, it would be on my terms. There comes a moment where you stop asking why. Not because the answers don't matter, but because you've already seen the truth. When someone you love betrays you, there's a period where you keep searching for logic, for explanation, for something that might help you make peace with the pain. But once you've gathered all the evidence, once the picture is no longer blurry, all you're left with is choice. That morning, I stood in the bathroom, brushing my teeth, staring into the mirror. Camilla walked by the doorway wrapped in a towel, humming a song I didn't recognize. She glanced at me and smiled, a soft, fleeting smile. It might have meant nothing, or it might have meant everything. Either way, it wasn't for me anymore. I dried my hands and looked at myself like I had so many times before in the past few weeks. But this time, I wasn't looking for doubt. I wasn't trying to read my own pain. I was looking for the version of me who had decided enough was enough. And I saw him. I had spent weeks collecting information, recordings, GPS logs, timelines, inconsistencies. I wasn't just guessing anymore. I wasn't suspecting. I was certain. My wife was in love, or at least lust, with another man, and she'd built an entire hidden life inside the cracks of our marriage. But the most damaging part wasn't what she'd done. It was how easy it seemed to be for her to keep doing it. Like betrayal had become routine. Like lying was as simple as breathing. It was Saturday. She had told me earlier in the week that she was taking the kids to see a movie with their cousins. A new Pixar film had just dropped, and she made a big deal out of how excited they all were. I even helped pick out the snacks to pack in her purse. That morning, she dressed the kids, grabbed her keys, and kissed my cheek like she was the same woman I married. But I had already confirmed through my nephew that she had told them she wasn't staying to watch the movie. She was just dropping them off. She had lied again, casually, effortlessly. When she left, I waited for 20 minutes, then called the security office at my job. I told them I needed to check on something in the warehouse and asked if the weekend crew was working. They were, including Jamal. That was all I needed to know. I got in my truck and started driving. I didn't blast music. I didn't rehearse what I was going to say. I didn't even feel the rage I thought I would. What I felt was something deeper, heavier. Like I was walking into a burial site, not a confrontation. Like I was about to watch the last breath of the life I'd built with her. When I pulled into the parking lot, I saw her car instantly, parked near the loading dock, partially hidden behind a delivery truck. A coward's parking spot. I walked inside with purpose, my jaw clenched, my heart pounding. A few workers looked up in surprise, nodding hello. I ignored them. My eyes were locked on one destination, the back of the building where the old truckers' lounge used to be. I'd worked here long enough to know the places people slipped into when they didn't want to be seen. As I approached the hallway, I heard music. Low, rhythmic, bass-heavy, something Latin, something sensual. I paused and pressed my hand to the wall for just a second, like I needed to feel something solid before everything else collapsed. And then I heard it. A moan. His voice. Then hers. I didn't knock. I didn't hesitate. I swung the door open like a storm, like I had been holding back the ocean and finally let it loose. There they were, Jamal on the couch, shirtless, pants undone. Camilla on her knees, in between his legs, looking up at him with eyes I hadn't seen directed at me in over a year. Her mouth was on him, her hands gripping his thighs, her hair tied back the way I always loved, but never saw anymore. For a Second, no one moved. Then Jamal jumped. Camilla looked up and froze, her eyes wide, her lips trembling. Not with shame, but with shock. As if she couldn't believe the world had actually caught up with her. I pulled my phone from my pocket and hit record. I got maybe 7 or 8 seconds before she scrambled back, yanking her shirt down, eyes wild. Jamal cursed, grabbed his pants. Camilla stood up and held her hands out like she could physically push the moment away. "Ethan," she started. "Don't," I said, my voice flat. "Just let me explain." "Explain what?" I snapped. "That you lied to me? That you brought our kids into this? That you used your own damn family as cover so you could sneak into a warehouse and do this?" Her voice cracked. "You weren't supposed to see this." "Clearly," I said, laughing bitterly. Jamal stayed quiet. Smart choice. I looked at Camilla then, really looked at her. Her makeup was smeared, her blouse was half-buttoned, and in that moment, she looked like a stranger. A selfish, cowardly stranger who had worn my wife's skin for months. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just looked at her and said what needed to be said. "I want a divorce." Her eyes widened. "Ethan, wait. Let's not do this here." "You did this here," I interrupted. "You chose this. You could have told me. You could have left. But you stayed. You stayed and lied and made me feel like I was going insane." She stepped toward me. "Please, we have kids." "Exactly," I said. "We have kids. And what kind of example are we setting if I let this slide?" She opened her mouth again, but I turned and walked away. I didn't stop for anyone in this hallway. I didn't even feel the cold air as I stepped outside. My body was moving on autopilot, but my mind was sharp, focused. When I got in the car, I hit the voice memo app and recorded my own words. Saturday, 3:07 p.m. Confirmed physical evidence of infidelity. Location, Trucker's Lounge at work. Witness, self, audio and video captured. I didn't do it for revenge. I did it because I knew she would try to twist this. Make it look like an emotional misunderstanding. But I had seen it. I had recorded it. And I had the courage to walk away from it. That night, I didn't sleep at the house. I stayed with my brother Julian. When I told him what happened, he didn't ask questions. He just looked at me and said, "What do you need from me?" "Help me change the locks tomorrow," I said. "You got it." The next morning, I started calling attorneys, sent the files, made appointments. I began the long, ugly, necessary process of building my case. But emotionally, I already felt lighter, not better, not yet, but freer. Camilla texted me that night. Paragraphs, apologies, explanations. None of them mattered. She had spent months dismantling our life, piece by piece, lie by lie, and I was done being the one holding the nails while she pulled it apart. She didn't reply when I told her the locks were changed. She didn't protest when I said I wanted the kids full-time during the case. And she didn't deny it when I reminded her that I had everything on record. That was the day she saw what I knew, and it was the day I took my power back. There's a strange silence that follows after you walk away from a war you never wanted to fight. It's not peaceful. Not at first. It's the kind of quiet that makes every room echo with memories. A plate of untouched food. A hallway that still smells like her perfume. A child's laughter that cuts a little deeper now. The world moves on, but something in you feels like it's still standing in that warehouse, watching your life unravel at the feet of betrayal. But silence, as I've come to learn, is not always empty. Sometimes it's space. Space to breathe. To grieve. To finally hear your own voice after months of listening to everyone else's lies. In the days after the confrontation, my life shifted quickly. Julian helped me install new locks. And the next morning, I picked up the kids from Camilla's sister's house. They came running to me, arms open, faces lit up in a way I hadn't seen in weeks. I asked my oldest, my daughter, if she wanted to bring her iPad. She nodded, but when she went to get it, Camilla stopped her. "She's not taking that. I paid for it." I didn't argue, not in front of the kids. I just told my daughter to head to the car. Camilla looked at me like I was a ghost, someone she used to know but couldn't recognize anymore. And maybe I was. I had spent so long trying to hold on to her, to us, that I hadn't realized how far I'd drifted from myself. The argument that followed was inevitable. She called me names, said I'd ruined everything, blamed me for getting Jamal fired, said I was petty, small, insecure. I didn't yell back. I didn't throw words like weapons. I just looked at her and said, I was loyal. That's what I ruined. That night, I explained everything to the kids in the gentlest way I could. I told them that sometimes grown-ups stop loving each other the way they used to, that it had nothing to do with them, that Mommy and Daddy would live in different houses now, but nothing would change how much we loved them. My son cried. My youngest clung to me. My daughter said, "Are we going to be okay?" And I told her the truth. I don't know yet, but we will be. The legal process moved faster than I expected. The audio files, the video, the timeline. It built a case that left no room for denial. My attorney said it was one of the cleanest demonstrations of infidelity he'd seen in a while. It helped me secure temporary full custody while we worked through the divorce proceedings. Camilla didn't contest it. I think part of her knew she had gone too far to walk anything back. Jamal was terminated within the week. HR conducted an internal review after receiving an anonymous report, and when the video surfaced, it was over. Camilla texted me one night, bitter and defensive, saying, "You didn't have to get him fired. That was vindictive." I didn't reply, because it wasn't about revenge, it was about consequences. The weeks turned into months. Camilla tried reaching out a few times, sometimes angry, sometimes nostalgic. Once, she even sent an old photo of us at Navy Pier from the day we met. I stared at it for a long time, not because I missed her, but because I couldn't believe how long I'd mistaken attention for affection. She told me she missed the family, said she wanted to be friends, but I'd heard enough of her words. I was done confusing her guilt for love. Instead, I turned inward. I started therapy. At first, I didn't think I needed it. I thought being strong meant handling everything alone. But sitting in that room with a stranger who didn't judge me, I realized how deeply the betrayal had scarred me, not just emotionally, but spiritually. I had stopped believing I was worth honesty, worth being chosen. Therapy taught me to grieve, not just for the marriage, but for the man I used to be. The one who ignored red flags, who begged for breadcrumbs of attention, who thought loving someone meant enduring their disrespect. It also taught me how to show up better for my kids. I started being present in a way I hadn't been before, not just physically, but emotionally. We had dinner together every night. I learned how to braid my daughter's hair, took my son to basketball practice and didn't check my phone once. I started helping my youngest with her art projects. I watched her paint with these big, messy brush strokes and thought, maybe that's what healing looks like. Not precise, not neat, but honest. People always say time heals all wounds. I don't believe that. Time just gives you the chance to find your own medicine. For me, it was reclaiming the parts of my life Camilla had chipped away at. I started running again. I fixed up the garage, reconnected with old friends, took a trip alone to Colorado, just to breathe mountain air and remind myself that life was bigger than my pain. There were hard days, of course. Days where loneliness felt like a second skin. Where I'd catch the smell of her old perfume in a grocery store aisle and have to step away to breathe. But those days grew fewer, and they stopped controlling me. Eventually, Camilla requested a sit-down. Not to reconcile, she said, but to clear the air. I agreed, for closure, not for her, but for me. We met at a neutral place, a quiet park near where we used to take the kids when they were toddlers. She looked different, tired, thinner. Her confidence had dulled. She apologized. Sincerely, maybe. But I didn't need it. I wasn't happy, she said. I felt unseen. I saw you every day, I replied. You just stopped seeing me. We talked for an hour. No yelling, no tears. Just two people trying to make peace with a wreckage they both had a hand in, though only one had lit the match. When I walked away from that conversation, I didn't look back. Now, I live in a house that feels like mine again. Not because of who's in it, but because of what's been removed. The lies, the confusion, the constant second-guessing. My kids are adjusting. We laugh more. We fight less. We talk about feelings without shame. And when I put them to bed, I no longer wonder what's being hidden behind a locked phone or a late-night drive. Sometimes, when I reflect on it all, I ask myself, did I lose my wife? Or did I simply lose the illusion of who I thought she was? Either way, I found something far more valuable. I found my peace. I found my boundaries. I found myself. And if that means walking alone for a while, so be it. Because I know now, I'd rather walk alone in truth than sleep beside someone built on lies. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's a story about becoming the person betrayal tried to destroy. And that, more than anything, is a story worth telling. When Ethan first met Camilla, their story felt like fate. Two strangers crossing paths in the middle of an ordinary day at Navy Pier, Chicago. Who would have thought that a strawberry lemonade and a shared laugh would turn into a marriage, a home, and a family of 5? Their connection was electric, their chemistry undeniable, and their love seemed, at least for a time, like it could weather anything. But life, as it always does, tested that promise. From the outside, they were the picture of a modern couple. Ethan, a hard-working maintenance engineer, grounded and loyal. Camilla, a vibrant, magnetic woman with a creative streak and a powerful presence. They had 3 beautiful kids, a growing home, and what seemed to be a steady future. But somewhere beneath the surface, the cracks began to form. It started small. A little distance, some extra time out with friends. Then it grew, whispered phone calls, excuses that didn't add up. A growing disconnect that felt like someone turning the lights off one by one in a house you built with love. When Ethan's gut started sending signals, he did what most loving spouses do. He gave the benefit of the doubt. He assumed the best. He questioned himself more than he questioned Camilla. But when a former coworker warned him that something wasn't right, Ethan was faced with a terrifying possibility. That the woman he had given his life to was living a second one behind his back, and she was. With patience and quiet determination, Ethan began to uncover the truth, not out of vengeance, but out of survival. He didn't shout. He didn't accuse. He observed. He listened. He recorded. And what he discovered shattered every illusion he had about their marriage. Camilla wasn't just having an affair. She was building a connection with another man while using her husband's trust, their children's routines, and her family as camouflage. But this story isn't just about betrayal. It's about how Ethan chose to rise from it. He didn't lash out publicly. He didn't seek revenge. He didn't fall apart, even though he had every reason to. Instead, he protected his kids. He protected his peace. He reclaimed his power. And most of all, he learned to value himself again, not based on how Camilla saw him, but on how he saw himself when he looked in the mirror with truth beside him. The hardest part wasn't catching her. It was walking away with dignity when he could have chosen destruction. It was sitting across from the woman he once loved and saying, "I want a divorce." Not with anger, but with clarity. It was explaining to his children, without bitterness, that sometimes adults grow apart and that their love for them would never change. The aftermath wasn't easy. Letting go never is. There were sleepless nights, courtroom visits, therapy sessions, and emotional relapses. But Ethan made it through. And along the way, he discovered that the end of a relationship doesn't have to mean the end of a meaningful life. In fact, for him, it was the beginning of one. He rebuilt his relationship with his kids. He got in shape, physically and emotionally. He found joy in routines, in small wins, in quiet Sunday mornings and loud laughter over board games. He even took time for himself, traveling, reflecting, rediscovering passions he'd let go of while trying to keep a broken marriage alive. Camilla faded into the background. Not because she wasn't important, but because she no longer had power over his story. And Jamal? Just a chapter. A loud, ugly chapter that was now closed. The lesson. Not all losses are failures. Sometimes losing someone means finding yourself. And sometimes, walking away from a love that betrayed you is the most loving thing you can do for yourself and your children. So what can we learn from Ethan's story? First, trust your instincts. When something doesn't feel right in your relationship, don't be so quick to silence your gut. It's not paranoia, it's protection. Second, gather facts before you confront. Emotional reactions feel good in the moment, but often burn bridges we may need later. Ethan's calm and evidence-based approach gave him the upper hand, not just legally, but emotionally. Third, healing is possible, but only if you stop clinging to what broke you. Ethan couldn't move forward until he stopped waiting for Camilla to become someone she wasn't anymore. Real love doesn't demand we lose ourselves to keep it. Finally, never underestimate the power of quiet strength. Ethan didn't break things. He rebuilt himself. And that's a kind of victory that no one can take away. Let's make this interactive. Quick question for you. If you were in Ethan's position, what would you do first? A. Confront your partner. Immediately B. Stay quiet and collect evidence. First, comment A or B down below. I really want to know how you would handle a situation like this. And more importantly, what do you think about Ethan's story? Do you believe he made the right choices? What would you have done differently? Share your thoughts in the comments so others can reflect, discuss, and learn from your perspective. If you found this story powerful, eye-opening, or relatable, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your support means everything. It's what keeps this channel alive and allows us to keep telling real, emotional, and important stories like this one. See you in the next video. And remember, protect your peace. Always.